preparing the live stream, so just one moment.
Feels like we're launching a plane or something, or a
Preparing the live stream, so just one moment.
countdown.
All right, we are live on YouTube.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this June 1st, 2020 meeting of the Lakewood Board of Education. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting starting at 6, and we exited executive session and are now returning to public session for that same meeting. As is typical, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have before us the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt?
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Zeman, would you please call the roll?
Ms. P.G. Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe. Ms. Beebe,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you. We have in our materials the minutes from the special board meeting held on May 13th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or changes to those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Next item, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam President. We have several items to cover in the Superintendent's Report. We're going to start tonight with the state of recreation. Mrs. Krogman is on with us to provide an update for the board. At this time, I'll let her take it away.
Thank you. President Petrie Barcelona, Vice President Shaughnessy, members of the board, Treasurer Zeman, and last but not least, Superintendent Barnes. Thank you for this opportunity to give you an update of the Recreation Department. I've had several discussions with Dr. Barnes and Assistant Superintendent Niedzwicki in regards to the different items of interest that we're encountering with the Recreation Department this summer. And I have submitted several proposals, which I believe that the Board of Education has seen a couple of them. So as I've been meeting with the CREC and the Youth Athletic Commission, the Adult Athletic Commission, plus the numerous emails and phone calls that we've had, I've been keeping the same easy cadence, kind of telling everyone we're in a race, but we are not here to finish first. We are the turtle, and we are going to be slow and steady to make sure that we do everything right. I had formed, and I still have it, a West Side collaborative of recreation directors, and we meet once a week. And it kind of helps to bounce off ideas and also see where everyone else, we're kind of like an accordion. You have like River and Westlake are pretty much full on, and then Bay, Lakewood, we're kind of in the back. And then you have Fairview, who's kind of, they're just starting to get around to things. So it's been very interesting. And in that collaborative is Bay Village, Rocky River, Fairview, Westlake, North Olmsted, Lakewood, Avon, and Avon Lake. So I'm getting a pretty good perspective of everything that's going on. I'm going to give you broad brush strokes as, you know, we are starting to make decisions, but not a lot of specifics as yet, because I still have to cover a couple of things with Dr. Barnes and Assistant Superintendent Niedzwicki. So I will start with aquatics because that seems to be the push everywhere. And speaking with Mayor George and the Director of Public Works, Roman Duku, we have established that the pools are opening up July 1st, which gives us plenty of time considering that Westlake and River are opening up the 6th and 8th of June, and Bay's kind of back with us. We are checking with the returning employees. We are doing the shifting, the sanitizing, and we are actually fortunate that we only have a big big rectangle pool at both Foster and Beck's, because we are going to be opening both. We're doing the physical distance circles, we're doing the registrations, all that good stuff. What we have to do right now is just make sure that you don't have one person registering for 20 people every single session for the entire summer. So what we have is 2-hour time blocks, 1 hour closed for sanitation. We're going to designate time for vulnerable or senior populations. And not to get too much into the weeds here, but that plan is coming forth. With athletics, that's another proposal I submitted. Right now, I was just notified this morning that we were denied the permit for the Cleveland Metroparks. So that means that we have lost 3 adult softball fields, and we already have over 75 teams registered. So I'm going to be doing some crafty scheduling just to make sure that, you know, a lot of people are looking forward to it. And obviously with the approval of the board and of the district leadership team, if we're able to move forward with this, we are hoping to start about mid-June. We're not going to be having a couple of the other sports just because they weren't viable. We didn't have enough registrations. On to youth athletics, our soccer was already canceled because they're part of OHTSL, the travel soccer, the Lakewood Soccer Association had canceled. Our Lakewood Community Baseball Association pulled out of the CVBA travel baseball, and our Emerald Necklace just recently, we withdrew from the summer programming. And a lot of these things are happening due to when in doubt, we're out. We're not dealing. I will have no problem taking heat for people saying I'm being too cautious or too safe, especially when it's dealing with our participants. I don't want to have a flare up or anything in Lakewood, and I'm pretty sure you guys don't want that to happen either. So we're going to be making a decision on the youth baseball and youth softball this week. And I'm hoping as well as making these announcements at the same time, because a lot of people are asking. They've been very patient. They've been amazing and very supportive. And now, you know, I'm ready to make decisions. I just want to make sure that everyone has the information in front of them and it's vetted out. Then we're coming down to programs, and in dealing with the collaborative of all these West Side communities, a lot of them have, like Avon Lake just recent, Avon and Avon, their pools are closed and all of their programming is basically canceled. And Bay is pocketing piecemeal and they're opening their pools late, but all their youth baseball is canceled. Their programs are canceled. North Olmsted is opening up a certain issue, like they canceled their softball, they canceled their youth baseball, their pool is under construction. I mean, they're just kind of in a pickle, if you will, right now. And then Westlake and Rocky River, obviously they are opening up their pools. They're opening up programming. And I actually went and visited them today, Rocky River and Westlake, to kind of see the layout of the land, what they're doing, their programming is. Because when it comes to our kids, for like Kids Connection, which is a daycare, if you will, to put it in the best terms, you know, we're starting to get a lot of calls about that. So we're going to be making decisions about if we're going to run our Kids Connection, what the layout is. I submitted a proposal for that. And then what's the difference between, say, if we approve Kids Connection, and then obviously we do, if we don't approve Safety Town, preschool potpourri, like the 1 week camps. And it's coming, it's interesting just to see the dynamics. We're kind of looking at it, hey, what can we do? Not, this is the reason why we can't. We're not looking at the negative perspective. I'd rather run it, like vet all the ideas, have everything in front of us just to make sure that we have all the information possible to see what we can do, not what we can't do. I know that was pretty quick. The fitness facility. The fitness facility, I'm putting together that proposal today. It was nice to go over to Westlake and River to see what they have done. I also stopped out at Avon Health and Fitness, which is out in Avon. I have not been to the Y as yet because these areas kind of best replicate what the fitness facility is here. And we are looking to set a schedule, working with Chris Donahoe to get the sanitized schedule down. Again, registration blocks, everybody clears out, we sanitize. There may be a difference in hours just because of the sanitation and the workers. Unfortunately for us, we've had a lot of people showing interest in coming back. People are ready to start back again. So that is, I believe those are the 4 big items of interest. So if you have any questions for me, but like I said, it's kind of ambiguous. I'm looking more at 30,000 feet instead of 100 feet. Yes, Emma.
The light went out.
Oh, I was just like, what was going on? I'm like, are you waving? I'm like, I see you.
The light
So
went out.
again,
But-
if-
but I will say, oh, wait, I'm sorry, were you finished or no?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and ask a question. So when it comes to, again, not the specifics right now, because I realize everything's in the works, do you anticipate that in order to reopen the things you need to, you'll have the staffing you need,
So-
or do you think we'll need to do additional hiring or anything, or?
So right now, we have turned in a significant amount of returning employee agreements, which is nice. So the staffing for the fitness facility and with some decisions that are going to be coming down, I think we are good. I talked to Matt Demeline, our aquatic manager, this morning, just to see where we are for staffing. And he said that what we have in returning and how everything is shifted out, we're going to be covered. The main thing that we were concerned about is that we had enough, for example, pool managers coming back, the hours that we had. And if we were hiring new lifeguards, if you will, that we had time to train them, and we're looking good for that. The only thing that we may have a question of is Kids Connection, which would be obviously the daycare, and seeing if Matt said, or Ralph, who oversees programs, said that right now we have about 20 returning people, which is, we usually have about 50. But we had a lot of people reaching out the past week saying, hey, I haven't returned my form. I'm interested in coming back. So I think we are going to be good.
Mr. Favor? Yeah.
Unmute yourself.
All right, that should be better. Just out of curiosity, normally, and this is not a normal year, obvious, but when you're talking about the Metroparks not giving us the lease for the ball diamonds down there, how many softball teams did we have last year? I mean, what percentage of our softball games were actually played there anyhow?
So we play down in the Metroparks on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 8:00 p.m. We play there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 6:15, 7:15 games. So you're looking at, and we do use Usher and Fox more because they have lights. So right now, last year we had about 98 to 99 teams. This year we have 75, I believe. But then I got a queue of people who want to register. I would say at least 40% of our games were played down in the Metroparks, because sometimes if Fox was in disrepair, we'd relocate games down onto Memorial 1, 2, 3. But like I said, if I freeze registration with what we have now and what I did kind of expect the Metroparks to deny us, that we are actually going to be okay. The Metroparks are not issuing any permits through September 30th. So that eliminates everything down there for the entire summer into the fall.
Okay, so 70 teams have
75.
applied.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. I have another question unless somebody else has one.
Go ahead, I'll go after.
Okay, fitness facility. So prior to this whole thing starting, I would go to the Y and I would go to our fitness facility. And I was actually always frustrated, disappointed, or whatever you want to call it, at both places, how so many users of the equipment don't wipe it. They certainly didn't follow any social distancing at that point, which would be all new. So going forward now, with the need to wipe and have the people really doing wiping, and that once we open that, it's going to be a culture shift for a lot of our customers, and probably for some of our staff that aren't used to having to watch people to make sure that you are wiping things down and you are following it whatever distancing we're going to have. So is that going to require more people to be working at the fitness facility, or do you have a training program in mind for, okay, folks, here's what we have to make sure our customers are doing now?
So part of the proposal I'm going to be submitting for the fitness facility will have the time blocks. Plus, we are going to designate one of the front office workers as a rover, meaning they're going to go in and clean equipment. We are going to block off every other for certain areas because with our treads and our ellipticals, they're right on top of each other.
Right.
So we have 8 treadmills, 8 ellipticals. So treadmill 1 is open, elliptical 2 is closed, treadmill 3 is closed, and elliptical 4 is open. And we'll have signage posted on there. But one of the things that I did notice at the other recreation department is that they had someone get up and just walk through and just clean after someone was on there. Plus, we're going to shut down, clear everyone out, and in working with Chris Dono, have a custodial staff come in and clean as well. With the social distancing, I've already been in contact with a sign company that can put down those sticky signs on the floor that says, keep your physical distance 6 feet. Those are going to be down. We'll have, certain areas. If it's someone's on this machine, you can't use this one. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a learning curve. And we just have to make sure that we stay diligent because with our staff, we're going to obviously put up the protective screening. No one is going to be able to check in. A person will come in, tell their number. We're going to check them in and then they go in. We're going to have the door open so you're not going to be able to touch. And I know I'm getting a little bit too detailed, but these are some of the things that we've already had discussions with and are going to be putting together. I mean, after what I saw today at River and Westlake, I'm actually updating some of the things in the proposals because something I thought would work, they've tried and it already hasn't. And then something they thought of, I didn't. So like our stairway, we're going to have to put a sign on the stairway. Please wait till the person in front of you is already up into the door. Please wait till, if you see someone coming down, please wait till they come down before you go up. Stuff like that.
No, but those are major when you're talking about outside, it's one thing, but in the fitness facility, you're in an enclosed room. I had a conversation with Chris Donahoe about just our HVA system's capability of changing the air rather than recirculating air and things like that. So there's a host of different considerations, but okay.
My question is quick. It's just, are you going to limit the number of participants? Is there going to be a change? Like for learn to swim classes, will you have fewer kids so kids can be spaced out or different ratios of instructors to students or swimmers?
So one of the things I'm proposing is we are not going to be having learn to swim.
Okay.
Because with the amount of time that we have shifting out, just the open swims and everything and all of the other local area, like none of them are having learn to swim. Normally our instructor to child ratio anyway is 1 to 5, but we can't keep the kids apart.
Right.
Like you would need a 30-foot length of pool for a level 1 and they are not staying apart. I mean, they just won't. We're going to have enough, we're going to have an interesting time keeping people away during open swims.
And are you going to limit the number of people you let into an open swim?
Yes, right now the limitation at Foster Pool is about 125 patrons. And we're getting ready to start spray painting the X's when they come up. We're going to try and push a new learning as in you need to pre-register. And if there is availability, we'll have a sign open saying, hey, either this session is full or this session has like 5. Again, I think the first week is going to be interesting. It always is going to be. Hopefully it's sunny, but not 95 or, right now Matt's like, man, it'd be great if it was 65 for the rest of the summer. I'm like, Matt, that's not going to happen. So we do have limitations. We are putting down physical distance circles. So when someone walks in, go to an open circle. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have a date to give people information about programming?
I'm hoping to be able to start putting out the programming on Wednesday, this Wednesday, once everything goes through, because I mean, the proposals are there and I've given some recommendations for what it needs to start happening, but I want to release it all at the same time. And this week is a good week to do it.
Thank you.
Leslie, I have a question. You mentioned, first of all, thanks for being here and thank you for the update. You mentioned that the Lakewood Community Baseball Association had pulled out of the CVBA, and my understanding there is that that group, the leadership of that group has put together a plan to run a baseball experience for the participants in-house. In fact, I sat on a meeting, I think this past week, where a lot of folks in a lot of the coaches in that particular board went to lengths to look into how that could be operated safely with somewhat of an in-house schedule and a real gradual introduction to a summer baseball experience. Has that been received by you, and is that under consideration for the district to allow them to kind of move forward in some way?
I have been in contact with Mike Rebar, Vince Franz, Maureen Dowell. Mike has kept me informed of the different sections that the LCBA, this person's working on the logistics of the field, this person's working on the physical distancing and the safety, et cetera. The conversation I had with Mike is that they are going to be starting basic trainings, but nothing until July, like actually mid-July in an in-house arena. And he also said that, within the amount of kids that they had registered within a couple of age groups, they can have like inter squad scrimmages, stuff like that. But as in having like a full-blown league, right, that they weren't to that point when I just spoke with Mike on Friday. Sure, so sure. When I touch base with him about once, even twice a week now, and he kind of fills me in as they progress.
Sure. Okay. But again, so the communication there is open, and you're aware.
100%. Oh, absolutely. We've been talking the whole time. They've actually been very helpful with the recommendation and decision-making process.
So would you say there's a possibility then of a baseball experience, for the
I would say beginning in July, you're going to have whatever you want to call the baseball experience this summer. It's not going to be the same, but there'll be something. Like they're going to have kids getting outside. They were talking about camps. They were talking about individual workouts, and then they would start. And then eventually Mike even said, hey, if we have a team that's ready, we'll contact River or we'll contact Bay and just start having scrimmages. And it's great that they're being proactive, and it's something for the kids to look forward to.
Absolutely. I do have just another question. You mentioned the Metroparks and the fields not being permittable, if that's the right word. Did they say that's for the rest of the calendar year, or were they speaking just in summer, something about fall? And
they said September 30th. That was the firm date they gave. At this time, they are canceled. They've canceled everything. No permits are being given out, no large scale events, anything through September 30th.
That's obviously detrimental to the Lakewood Soccer Association that I think exclusively or uses those fields to a great degree.
Yeah, they just use the Saturdays, all the memorials, but they canceled their season this spring. I have to let them know about that. I just got that email this afternoon.
That's a tough one for them, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Leslie, I have a couple more questions. One thing I was wondering is, are other rec programs, the sorts of ones that might have been in person or classroom, are any teachers or programs going to be offered Zoom or remotely for summer programming?
So we are looking into what we might be, like, for example, private music lessons went via Zoom, and those went very well. We are looking into see what our instructors would like to do, because one of the issues that other recreation departments have run into is pay. If they're like, how are they doing their classes? Like if there's a dance class, like Patty Hayes, she can make it work. Patty Hayes can do anything, her and Peggy Stockdale. Whereas, say Maria Vogin, who teaches our private music lessons, piano, may not be interested. Ralph has been reaching out. I do have a group that would be a private rental, like Jazzercise. Jazzercise really wants to get back into, they use Hayes, and I'm putting together kind of, all right, how would we make this work? Do you enter by the main entrance and then you shoot out the custodial entrance just to kind of make sure how many people? So we are looking at as many ways as possible to offer the programs that we can. When it comes to Safety Town, you have a bunch of 5-year-olds who I have experience trying to teach a 5-year-old via Zoom and all that stuff. And I can tell you it's hurting cats. So that may not work. But again, we're looking at the perspective, what can we do? What can we offer? Instead of, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like instead of going negative, we're staying positive. We're trying to be more proactive than reactive.
Thanks. So and again, I realize these sorts of things might still be in the works, but I know I've heard just a handful of questions overall, especially with regard to the pools, and acknowledging that there are a number of pools around us that will not be opening or not have access to things. Are there steps the rec department and the city will be taking to ensure spots for Lakewood residents first, at least, or other ways just to ensure our residents will at least be able to, if there's a spot available, that is?
We have closed it to non-residents. Only Lakewood residents are able to register.
Got it. Oh, well, that answered my, thank you. And then my final question overall is just what sort of, whether it's equipment or what sorts of things will be available to help keep all of our employees safe, the ones that will be reporting to work in person. Can you just tell us a little bit about what's in store?
Sure. So for example, if you want, we'll start with the pools because that always seems like to be the hot topic. You're going to have the safety shields when people walk in. Again, we are not accepting cash. It is going to be a debit credit card registration only. They will be wearing masks. When the people walk in, we are going to almost paint a path that they have to walk through. Locker rooms will be closed. Every other bathroom will be shut down. One of the things people were asking, and this is one of the items of interest that we're working at, like I've discussed with Assistant Superintendent Zwicky, is that we have lifeguards. If they have to make a save, what happens? When you're jumping in the water, we had over 50 saves last year. Something as simple as a kid just thrashing on the side to someone that they actually had to jump in and swim back. No CPR, thank goodness. But however, what are we going to do if they have to perform CPR? And that's one of the things that, all right, they have the masks in their little fanny pack, they have gloves, but when you're in the heat of the moment, are you going to be using that stuff? They were asking whether or not we'll be taking temperatures when people come in, at the pools, and will we have a temperature gauge, or are we going to go on an on your honor? Same with our staff. Like, our staff are going to have to self-report their temperature every day. They will have to let us know if they've been exposed or has anyone been around them, or, etc. When it comes to the sanitization, again, the pools are going to empty out, and I've talked to Mayor George that we're going to be requesting that the city of Lakewood provide the sanitation chemicals and everything. And if we have to clean, then we need to know the procedure on what our staff is going to have to do. And is the city staff going to be coming in after we close for the night to do another sweep? So it has been extensive. We've ordered masks, we have gloves, we have the hand sanitizer, we have the spray sanitizer, the bleach and all that good stuff. It's getting pretty extensive, but again, you build it into the learning curve, you start teaching people the steps in the process, and we go from there, and then we just have to make sure that they follow it. The other interesting item is, what do we do to patrol people who aren't physically distancing? How do I expect a 16-year-old lifeguard to go up to a group of adults and tell them to get away from each other? And that's another discussion I actually brought up with the Public Works Department. I'm like, all right, for the first week, would we be able to assign an off-duty cop there, just to have a presence, so that, hey, this is serious? Because Cleveland pools have shut down, but now we don't have to worry about non-residents taking it over. We're going to keep it home as much as we can. That's not to say someone's going to register and not be a resident, but when it comes to the safety of our staff, of the patrons, and just of the cleanliness of the facility, it's paramount.
If I could add, may I? I'm sorry. I understand that the final protocols from the state indicated a cleaning of surfaces every 2 hours, and so to your point, the challenge there being documenting that, of course, and to be able to do that. And it would be great if Public Works staff were perhaps available overnight, like you may inquire. However, doing that throughout the day, it would be a task of asked of the pool staff, and whatever type of rotation obviously is developed. But I imagine assigning that and ensuring that that's done on a consistent basis is without a doubt a challenge, especially knowing that many of the folks who would be asking to do that are perhaps lifeguards as well, perhaps minors, and of course making it clear to their parents of what their role and their job description entails. And I'm sure those are all things that you're thinking about, but they're certainly things that I'm thinking about as well.
So what we have done with Public Works in the past is we shared a live Google Doc that actually documented something simple, obviously in normal times, was, hey, the shower's leaking. And, you put it in the document and that's shared with, Mike, Rocky, Rocky's still around, and, or, Kurt Mataj, who's still there, and then Roman would be on it. So it would be a live document of, hey, this was cleaned, this is the time that it was cleaned, and then it's date stamped. And within that document, they're only able to edit the action and the time, because the date stamp wouldn't be able to be edited. So, I mean, it would be a live document. So when, after our 2-hour break, everybody's getting cleared out,
Right.
Good times there, and then everyone's going to be assigned a place. There's not going to be any features. So there's no diving board up at Madison. There's not going to be the slide or the diving board because there's too many touch points. But again, the doors, the chairs, the life, I mean, everything. So yeah, it's gonna be a beast when it finally gets put together, but we've already been working on it.
I'm sure you have, and I kind of told myself I wouldn't get too far into the weeds at this point, but here I am. The other thing that comes to mind with me is in the event of inclement weather, and of course that rush to safety, and then folks now in the pool house, and ensuring that social distancing and trying to keep folks safe and kind of get them on their way would also be a challenge. And I'm sure that plays into the capacities, but certainly another point that could be a little tricky as we get things rolling.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Mrs. Krogerman? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Off the hot seat.
You
Have a good night, everyone.
did well.
I'm trying.
Next up for the board, as a part of the superintendent's report, I'd like to read the annual report submitted by Nutrition Services, and I'll read it on behalf of Miss Nancy Early, our lead administrator in Nutrition Services. She provided for the board 6 points as a part of her annual report, and they are as follows. The first point is the new menu offerings for the 1920 school year, increased fresh fruit and vegetable options. We offered fresh apples, broccoli, celery sticks, carrot sticks, oranges, etc. Plan to continue to offer these fresh menu items moving forward next year. At the Green Initiative, which is bullet point 2, middle schools and high schools reintroduced washable lunch trays to replace the styrofoam trays. Nancy Early applied for the USDA equipment grant for dishwashers in all elementary buildings, but unfortunately, we didn't receive it. She intends to continue to seek grants to support that initiative. The third bullet, during the COVID-19, Nutrition Service Department has done an outstanding job. The National Lunch Program application for 2019 and 20 was modified and added the seamless summer options. Our district was able to operate as an enrolled site. We were permitted to claim all meals served to free and reduced price students, as well as the same proportions of meals served to students who normally pay full price for the meals. Garfield, bullet point 4, Garfield Middle School, Harding Middle School, and Lakewood High School were the distribution sites during COVID-19 remote learning. During the meal distributions, meal recipients were occasionally offered items such as fresh little plants from the horticulture department at Lakewood High School, as well as books and ice cream. Bullet point 5, 6 generous donors gave the district $21,000 worth of gift cards for Giant Eagle to be used by families during the meal distribution. Very, very, very generous, and we're grateful and thankful for that. I know the families appreciate it. And the last bullet that she offered up as a part of her annual report is that we served more than 24,000 meals. That's combined breakfast and lunch during the COVID-19 remote learning or shutdown since March 19th. So kudos to the Food Service Department for making much needed adjustments in how we were providing meals for families. I know that our administrators were there during these meal distributions, and our families were greatly appreciative of this effort. And that concludes the annual report for food services. If the board has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But again, this is on behalf of Mrs. Nancy Early.
I'll just note that I know we're very appreciative to Nancy and all of the people in food service who kept everything going while things were shutting down. And we do just want to thank them very, very much for all their work in moving quickly to make sure our kids could still get fed and do so in a safe way. And just the way that the entire district worked together to make that happen for our families and our kids. Just as a note for any people watching right now, there is authorization now for families who are on food stamps right now that they will get extra money over the summer to help get basically the equivalent of what they would have had for their students in school. So some additional resources. So we do hope that helps families who do have that resource, and just encourage any families who may find themselves food insecure to tap into the resources that Lakewood has, as well as to look into any programs they may be entitled to. Because with this conclusion of the school year, albeit a few days, we may have stopped, a couple weeks ago. Tomorrow is the last official day of school. So the Lakewood schools won't be doing this until the next school year begins. So.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to transition into the recognition of our district retirees. Normally, we would do this in person. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So we're going to read a brief bio. We have 17 retirees that we're going to honor with some quick comments tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Calais to take over the screen and display the post that has all of the retirees. So I'll wait until he's able to get that up. Okay, and I'll read them. Again, there's 17 of them. We thank all of them for their service to the Lakewood City Schools and its children. Mary Andrusak. Mary served the district for 28 years and retires as the Central Office Secretary in teaching and learning K through 12. We have Sue Cernanek. Sue served the district for 35 years and retires as the Library Media Assistant at Lincoln Elementary School. Terry Dupero. Terry served the district for 25 years as a Spanish teacher at Lakewood High School. We have Tina Andrus. Tina served the district for 20 years and retires as the Central Office Data Secretary. We have Dave Georges. Dave served the district for 37 years and retires as a physical education teacher at Harding Middle School. We have Mary Hanagowski. Mary served the district for 32 years and retires as a speech language pathologist at Garfield and Harding Middle Schools. We have Patty Hayes. Patty served the district for nearly 17 years and retires as a Central Office Secretary in the Student Service Department. Mary Ann Hennessy. Mary Ann served the district for 11 years and retires from Harding Middle School as a building cleaner. We have Phil Hitley. Phil served the district for 25 years and retires as a paraprofessional at Lakewood High School. Amy Hughes. Amy has served the district for 35 years and retires as a paraprofessional at Garfield Middle School. Debbie Jordan. Debbie served the district nearly 18 years and retires as a paraprofessional at Lakewood High School. Diane Lewis. Diane served the district for 24 years and retires as an intervention specialist at Harding Middle School. Mary Jo Molchak. Mary Jo has served the district for 25 years and retires as a music/strings teacher for the middle schools and our elementary schools. Sue Michaels. Sue has served the district for 13 years and retires as a preschool teacher from Roosevelt Elementary School. Peter Petto. Peter has served the district for 13 years and retires as a math teacher from Lakewood High School. Kim Shear. Kim has served the district for 21 years and retires as a social studies teacher from Lakewood High School. And finally, Rick Wallenhorst. Rick has served the district for nearly 13 years and retires as the adult athletics coordinator from the Community's Education and Recreation Department. I'd like once again to thank these retirees, thank them for their service to the Lakewood City Schools, its children, and the community. We wish you the very, very best moving forward. Thank you very much.
Can I just add to that, Dr. Barnes? I think it's sad that this current situation has made it impossible for us to one-on-one with these folks recognize the tremendous contribution that they've given to the children of Lakewood. We have a remarkable staff in this district, and these people are a part of it and a good example of the kind of people that have served the district. And when they come, they stay 35 years, 37 years. This is dedication in a job that takes, it is intense and takes the ability to be good even on your worst days. So again, just to say how much we appreciate them and to give my regrets that I can't tell each of them that face to face.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Dr. Barnes, if I could also add to Mrs. Beebe's comments and my recognition as well, knowing many of those retirees personally, and whether many of them are active in the community. There's one, Phil Hilty, and not to put you on the spot, but I want to make sure we get his name correct. Again, Phil Hilty worked as an aide. And I served as the aquatics manager many years ago, but for a good number of years. And he would work with students with disabilities and would often bring them down to the pool. And so we got to know each other pretty well. And to see his patience and like Mrs. Beebe said, the day in and day out willingness to work so hard for the district and for those kids. And I just want to spotlight him, but they're all, we thank them all for their contributions and certainly wish that it was in a different manner that we were delivering this recognition.
Maybe we could have a small retiree parade in the north lot, just a little circle.
Yeah, that's if they want to come back. But indeed, I just want to echo the sentiments that we do appreciate all of our employees who've worked so long with us and so long with our students and community, and do wish them rest and all good things in their retirement, and hope those that are here in Lakewood or are planning on sticking around close by, that they'll still come back and check in on us sometimes. So thank you. All right. With the conclusion of the superintendent's report, we move forward with the discussion of the agenda items for the second regular meeting. The first report is finance, and that's Ms. Beebe.
Hit the button and there we go. There are 4 items on the finance agenda this week. The first 3 are routine items. Investments purchased and matured for the month of April 2020. Investment earnings for regular board funds totaled over $48,000. And our fiscal year to date earnings in excess of $400,000. Investment earnings for construction funds to this year to date are $209,000. Financial information generally for the month of April 2020, general fund receipts totaled $2 million, and general fund expenditures, $5,600. Year-to-date expenditures are within the appropriated amounts established by the Board of Education. We have a financial summary report that's provided to the board to show monthly and fiscal year-to-date cash positions for funds maintained by the district. All accounts have sufficient funds available to cover any increase in appropriations. Number 3, the permanent appropriations reflects the current 5-year forecast. Appropriations reflect our commitment to providing an excellent education at a prudent and appropriate, at a prudent and community-sensitive level. The general fund is showing an increase of 2.03% compared to fiscal year 2020. And then finally, we have Lakewood Public Library budget document for the fiscal year of 2021 for our review and consideration. We are the fiscal agent for Lakewood Public Library, and review of this budget is part of our duties. The budget must be adopted by the Board of Ed no later than July 15th and forwarded to the County Budget Commission. And that concludes my report.
May I ask a quick question, maybe of Mr. Zeman? Is the library budget going to be impacted by any state cuts as well as the schools? Or library revenues, I should say?
Actually, that's a great question that I do not have the answer for. I didn't have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Costello, who is the Lakewood Library budget director prior to this meeting, but that's something I will find out for the next meeting.
The budget itself, as it was presented to us, does show a steady increase in revenues. But it'd probably be a good idea to talk to Mr. Crawford and get the specifics.
I mean, there's special funding for libraries, in the state of Ohio, but I didn't know if they were immune from any reduction. So, okay, thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Beebe. Moving on, the next report is building sites and major purchases, and that's Mr. Faber.
Thank you, Mrs. Petrie Barcelona. We have 3 items here. The first, are you hearing me okay? Okay. The first is a resolution to approve an agreement between the Lakewood Board of Education and the Schools of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority as the provider for property, fleet, and liability insurance for the fiscal year 2021. SORSA, which is the abbreviation for Ohio, the Schools of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority, provides insurance for the district buildings, employees, vehicles, and so forth. Coverage exceeds the state required limits, and the total premium for liability coverages for the fiscal year 2021 is $277,000. The next is a resolution to approve HVAC preventive maintenance, water treatment, building automation, system monitoring, and support contract between the Lakewood Board of Education and as a result of a competitive bidding process, Gardner met all the requirements and specs to provide these services, and the contract allows for the option to be renewed annually for a period of up to 2 years. Annual cost for fiscal year 21 will be $150,336. And this contract would go into effect July 1st. There's also other quotes that were solicited, and Gardner is the winning bid. The final item, the third item, is a resolution to approve a lease agreement between the Lakewood Board of Education and the Norfolk Southern Railway. For those of us that recall when there used to be a little dead-end street to the east side of the Garfield property when we expanded that, and when that was cleared out, the very northern end of it, a large parcel of that property is still owned by the railroad. So when we put in the stadium at Garfield, what would be the northeast area of the stadium property there is actually partially onto railroad property. So we leased that lot, if you will, from the railroad to complete that process. And this is a renewal of that release. So it specifies here where it is, that in the item that you have, that milepost B 189.70, that is the area on the railroad, their location on the railroad that specifies that property. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Faber. Next is the education report, Mr. Callahan.
Petrie Barcelona. We have 5 items in the education report. The first is an annual resolution to support the grant application submitted by the City of Lakewood Police Department for funding from Ohio for the city's DARE program. It also commends the police department for continued efforts to educate young people of the city as to the hazards of alcohol and drugs. The second is a resolution to approve membership in the Alliance for High Quality Education for the 2020-2021 school year. The district has been a member of this organization for many years, as these participating districts have banded together to attempt to positively impact state school funding, student academic measures, and other important educational initiatives affecting Ohio's pre-K through 12th grade public school districts. Approval of the resolution is requested to authorize the district's continuing participation with the organization. Next, we have a memorandum of understanding between College Now, Greater Cleveland, and Lakewood High School. Contracting with College Now provides a vital position at Lakewood High School serving college-bound students. Mrs. Sandoval, the College Now counselor assigned to Lakewood High School, works to help our Lakewood High School students apply for financial aid, secure waivers for application fees and the admission testing fees, publishes a scholarship bulletin, and helps students navigate the college selection process. The program, funded jointly by the Lakewood Ranger Education Foundation and the Lakewood City Schools at the rate of $450 per day for 100 days. In summary, neighboring private schools enjoy a full-time guidance counselor for this purpose, and Lakewood High School has contracted with College Now for more than a decade. When the district cut these funds prior to the 2010-11 academic year, the Lakewood High School Alumni Foundation, now Lakewood Ranger Education Foundation, secured a $100,000 gift from alumni in New York City to continue the program. So in December 2011, they received a $50,000 gift from another alumni family. So Lakewood Ranger Education Foundation will continue to work to secure future funding for this position. We're certainly grateful to them. Logistically, the district enters into the contract and pays the contract, but LREF is invoiced by the school district and reimburses the district for its portion of the expenses. Next, we have adoption of the reading improvement plan for grades K to 5. The board is being asked to approve the district reading improvement plan, which is required by the Ohio Department of Education as we strive to reach the mark of 80% of our 3rd grade students scoring proficient or better on the AIR test. This plan describes the work that we will engage teachers and principals in as we work to transition our response to instruction and intervention model to multi-tiered systems of support, as is now recommended by the Ohio Department of Ed. And finally, gifts to Lakewood schools. We're grateful to acknowledge on behalf of the Cleveland Water Polo Club, Tricia Armstrong donated $1,250 in support of the lunch program, and at that was at Lakewood High School. And then at Horace Mann, Aaron Wallace donated $3,224.33 in support of the Horace Mann Champs Program Cafe. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Those are some wonderful gifts to our schools and students, so thank you. Next item is policy. We have no policies to consider at this time. Next item is Human Resources and Community Services Report, and that's Ms. Shaughnessy. Please unmute yourself, Ms. Shaughnessy.
Sorry about that. We'll be considering 4 resolutions, 27 actions for certified employees, 2 for classified, 3 for athletic coaches and advisors, and a total of 8 actions for community recreation and education. And I believe that concludes this part of the human resources items.
Thank you. Moving forward is communications. Superintendent Barnes or Treasurer Zeman, any communications you'd like to share? Okay.
Oh, if I could, Ms. Peter Barcelona, is just wanted to give the board an update in regards to the governor's announcement a couple weeks ago regarding reduction in funding to schools, as well as funding that was provided through the CARES Act, or more specifically the ESSER fund, which is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, that was provided through the Federal CARES Act as well. So in early May, the governor did come out and make a announcement that they were reducing K-12 funding by $300 million for the FY20 school year. So the remaining month and a half that the school was in session, or the fiscal year was in session, that the district would receive a reduction in funding. That reduction in funding for Lakewood City Schools was $1.1 million. And again, that reduction was going to take place between May 15th and June 30th this year. It was a 6.5% reduction in state funding for the Lakewood City School Districts. The funding reductions range from 0.7% all the way up to 56% throughout the state of Ohio. So it definitely was not an easy cut, but it could have been worse. And of course, it could have been better. That funding, just so you know, though, that will carry forward. Our anticipation is that will carry forward for the 2021 school year. That additional $1.1 million reduction, that has been modeled in the 5-year forecast that's been submitted to the state of Ohio. The good news on that, though, is through the CARES Act, and again, as through the ESSER fund that I mentioned earlier, the district is eligible for $940,000 in relief funds that is to be spent between now and June 30 of 2020. So the overall net impact to the district is a reduction in funding of $160,000 for the 2020 school year. However, the 2021 school year does not have any guarantee of any additional federal programs or federal funding that would come to the district. So there was nothing modeled in the forecast to show any additional funding coming to us through the federal government. That ESSER fund is also, it's a reimbursement process. So it's not revenue coming to us, it's reimbursement for expenditures. Those expenditures do go back to March 13th of 2020 through June 30, and those funds can be used for the continuation of education as well as many other things. And the district's utilization of those funds is in fact to do that, is to make sure those dollars spent to continue, whether it was through remote learning or the maintaining of the instructional process, that those dollars will be used for that. Any questions?
Comment?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Faber.
I'd never like to pass up the opportunity to point out when, once again, the state of Ohio diverts money away from public education into private pockets.
One other comment, just to make sure that the community and the board, again, on April 28th, the district was incredibly fortunate and thankful to the community for their support of the 4.9 mil levy that was on the ballot. Again, a 3.9 mil operating and 1 mil permanent improvement. Just is to keep in mind that 3.9 mils in Lakewood City School District raises $3.9 million. Now that isn't always how mills work, but in Lakewood it does. So it raises estimated $3.9 million. That was prior to, of course, this reduction in funding of $1.1 million. So we don't know what's going to happen beyond 2021. We are hopeful that the economy does return and those funding levels return to pre-COVID, but we don't know that. So potentially long-term, seeing a $1.1 million reduction in revenues throughout the 5-year forecast, of course, is over $5 million of revenue that would have been anticipated that is no longer there. So in essence, that if it does continue through the life of the forecast, that would be, instead of a 3.9 mil levy that the community supported, the impact to the district would be a 2.9 mil levy. Now, we don't know what's going to happen going forward, but I just wanted, again, to communicate that well and get that out there early in case there are any questions about the overall long-term impact of the district.
Thank you, Mr. Zeman. Board members, is there anybody who'd like to make a comment? Communicate? Before we move, oh, Mr. Favor, please.
No, just for the sake of it, this may be repetitious, but again, to congratulate the district and everybody that organized the parade for the graduates yesterday. It really was impressive. Very well received.
And I would add to that also, the commencement ceremony, virtual as it was, felt very personal. And then the upcoming opportunity for students to walk, I think, really shows Mr. Walters and all of the administration has done a great job of trying to mitigate some of the pain of this whole missing of the senior experience. So I think we have a lot to be proud of in this district and some great leadership.
Oh, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, President Petrie-Barcelona. If I could just add to that, I had the opportunity to be present for one of those commencement opportunities where students were able to walk with their families present, and just seeing just how many of them have taken the school up on that offer is telling of the appreciation. So, and to see the smiles and the emotions were clearly there, and it was really special. Of course, we wore masks as was appropriate and recommended and required. I certainly wish that I could have conveyed more of my emotion to them. I mean, it was just an awesome experience. Not quite the same as a group, obviously commencement, nowhere near it, but still it was fantastic. So I too commend the leadership for that. And if I could just echo as well, the parade and the turnout from the community and the reception. I know there are at least 5 Lakewood High School graduates on my street, and that we had many folks out. Social distancing, of course, came down to the end of the street as they came by Detroit and Elber, and it was great to see neighbors out cheering as well and recognizing the seniors. So.
Thank you. Indeed, I just wanted to add that just the gratitude to our graduates, our families, and to all of our educators, teachers, administrators, everybody who brought those students along the way. And our commencement officially was yesterday. So we now have a new crop of graduates from the Lakewood City Schools. And I do encourage you, if you have the time, to watch the commencement. And even if you don't have time to watch the entire thing, I highly recommend watching or listening to the 3 student speeches. We had incredible I mean, every year, frankly, we have great speakers, but we had 3 students with different perspectives and just sharing different experiences, but really were very, very meaningful, especially given the unique circumstances under which they finished their careers here at Lakewood. So you can find that on the Lakewood City Schools website, I believe, and also through various social media. So, and of course, anybody can watch that. And yes, and thank you to the city and all of the administrators and others in the district who helped make the senior parade happen. it was a great way to celebrate the students very publicly, given that they weren't going to have the same pomp and circumstance that they would have had in any other year, at least for the event. And finally, I'd just like to note at this point that this week is the actual last week of the school year. While students stopped, we had the last day of school a couple weeks ago. It's, I guess, tomorrow or Wednesday is our last day of school for the year. Of course, we do have here in Lakewood City Schools, do have many administrators and employees who work 12 months or 11 months out of the year. But for a big group of our family, the school year is ending. And on behalf of the board, I just would like to say thank you once again for all of the effort and all of the ability to just do something new and do it well with very little notice and with very, just to take the enthusiasm of what we needed to do in educating our students, getting information out and totally redoing things very quickly. We just are very appreciative. We're optimistic for what the next school year will look like, but acknowledge that we still just don't know fully how things will be going. And so we appreciate that you gave so much effort in the school year. We hope you do have a good break for those employees who will be coming back in the next school year and are ready to go for whatever is to come next year. And of course, I do just want to thank our senior leadership here. And thank you so much, Dr. Barnes, for leading us through getting us through this school year and getting your team and everybody that you work with, just really keeping everybody motivated and focused on what we need to do, which is to take care of our kids and our families. So thank you so much for keeping it all going. Okay, with that, it's now the public comment period. We did receive one question or comment as noted in the public notice for the meeting. And in this case, let's see here, this is from Georgine Session, 1587 Waterbury Road. My question is about the district finances. I know we currently passed a levy, but it's the state cutting funds to the schools, and how will that impact the district? Also, have any funds come from the federal government as part of their relief package? She has a second question, but I'll go ahead. Mr. Zeman, would you mind covering some of that or answering part of that question?
Sure. As stated earlier, the reduction in funding for the FY20 school year from the state of Ohio was $1.1 million, which was offset by the CARES relief, elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund of that $940,000. The impact to the district, thankfully, again, because of the community support, not just recently, but throughout the years, has put the district in a place where we can continue to provide the expected and incredible education that we do. We continually work throughout the year to be fiscally responsible and not only provide the best education, but again, in the most fiscally responsible way. And that will continue throughout this summer and going forward. The long-term impact, we do not know. Again, we have in the 5-year forecast that reduction in funding for the FY21 school year continuing. But beyond that, we are waiting to see and get more information. And as more information comes about, we'll definitely let the community and of course the board know of those situations.
Thank you, Mr. Zeman. Now back to Ms. Sessions' note, in her words, congratulations to the class of 2020. The commencement may not have been traditional, but it was unique and memorable. I enjoyed the now and then video and being part of the parade. So thank you very much for your comment and questions. And I would note again for anybody watching that as part of the public notice for our meetings, we do issue the means by which you can make a comment at the board meetings as we're doing these remotely at this point in time, but we do look forward to hearing from you if there is something you'd like to speak about with regard to the agenda. And with that, moving on to the next agenda item, We have other board business, and the first items are for Mrs. Shaughnessy.
Thank you very much. The first resolution deals with a certified resignation. Request is approved on one reading, so I move adoption of this resolution.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. Petrie Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor, Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
aye.
Thank you.
And the second resolution deals with a classified staff member's retirement. And again, this resolution is requested to be made on one reading, and I move adoption of the resolution.
I second that resolution.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. Petrie Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe. Thank you.
And the third personnel resolution is a second reading of a resolution to approve the extension of the Director of Operations employment contract, and I move adoption of this resolution.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
I believe that concludes the HR section.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaughnessy. We have an additional item, Mr. Favor.
This is a resolution to approve an agreement between the Lakewood Board of Education and Bluegrass Recreation for construction of the playground structure right here, well, where some of us are, right here at Taft for Center for Innovation. It's been presented to us for approval on one reading. Board members have a lot of the information that came in the packet. I asked Mr. Zeman for a diagram because we have some pictures of the placement of it. I have concerns over the placement of it, but before we get into discussion, I need to make the motion. So I would make the motion for one reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded on this motion. Is there discussion on this motion? Yes.
Mrs. Peters, I may be wrong, so let me ask the question first. Is this to be located where the current playground is?
Yes.
Or are we moving it?
Well, where the area where the playground was on Lake Road is where this will be located.
Okay, that's my concern. I have no problem with the vendor, so this is not about the bid or anything like that. My concern is for safety, that to be having a playground that's going to be used by preschool children is separate from the building. There's a physical separation from the playground to the building. Earlier on, when we first talked about putting a daycare, so to speak, here in this building before the construction, I had mentioned that if we put the playground on the west side of the building, here between the building, on the whippoorwill side of the building, the small children could enter the playground to and from the building without having to go into an open public area to get to and from the playground. My concern with having the playground where it is now, which is when this was an elementary school, is that we're on main streets. We're going to have smaller children, and they're going to be physically separated from the building with a public area, which lends itself to security problems, as well as quickly evacuating the children from the playground directly into the building for safety purposes. So although I don't have a problem with the vendor, I do have a problem. I think that security-wise, that playground is in the wrong place. I've conveyed this in the past, so this is, those of you that have spoken with me about this in the past, this has been my concern about this since day one. So I think it's wrong. I think it's located in the wrong location.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, since this was a request of approval on one reading, there is a roll call. Mr. Zeman, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor. I'm sorry, Mr. Favor, you're muted.
You're on mute.
For the vendor, but not the location, aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there any other business that comes before the board this evening? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, and we're adjourned until our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.